Hey everyone, my name is Eric Thor, and in today's video, allow me to discuss Dario Nardi's neuroscience of personality. Did Dario Nardi finally prove that the MBTI was true? Did his research give support that there were personality types visible in neuroscience? Have any of you read his books or literature, or what do you think about his works? That's my starting question to you. My personal view on Dario Nardi is that he is a greatly talented person. He's kickstarted a new wave of research which I believe will bring about support for the idea that people are different. He was one of the first to realize that if we should study personality differences, we should use neuroscience to study it, to find objective proof on the differences in personality. And his core issue and his flaw with going into this research was that he decided how to divide each personality type. He decided to use the MBTI framework, and he decided to measure the brain activity of each personality type as based on the MBTI, under the assumption that everyone that he put this hat on had been correctly typed. His issue is that he did not originate from neuroscience. He did not base himself on the neuroscience of personality, which is widely researched. There has been a wide amount of research done on the brain and differences in how we think and process behavior and how we make decisions. And he decided to kind of ignore that and to do his own research, a pilot study as he called it. He didn't submit his findings as a research paper. He didn't put it under review. He didn't have that academic support to follow through with and to verify his claims, which means that this remains a pilot study, as we might call it. It's him doing his own work, using his own method, and using his own basic theory. He did not prove anything. He only started mapping things out just for fun, really. And it was fun. He did find patterns, he did see similarities. He did not have the proper instruments to interpret these patterns. The theories that he used to interpret the networks in the mind and the maps he used are sketchy at best. It's hard to find what the references to what these maps were based on. It's hard to find any clear understanding of where he found that the regions here were associated with mirror neurons, so that you could even limit it to one particular area in the brain. He kind of, in many ways, did what many others have tried to do, based on the misconception that you can divide the brain into areas, like in some forms of pseudoscience, where you can say this is the area you use for relationships, and this is the area you use for logic, and this is the area you use for memory. When really often the mind is much more complex than that. Usually memory happens all over the brain. What neuroscience does is it shows that there are networks in the mind, processes in the mind that exist and interact all over the brain. The task-positive network, the default mode network, it's not limited to one part of the brain, but actually it's a bunch of neurons all over the brain working together. The tennis hop patterns and the whole Zen brain patterns that Dario Nardi found were more than amazing analogies to how we assume that INFJs think and how we assume that ENFPs think. That their minds are jumping and flaring up in all different areas. That the INFJ's brain is used holistically, that all areas are used equally, that there is some form of Zen in the brain. But in many ways, we can't use this as evidence. The sample he used, the people he used, were too few. the people and the sample and how he got them together is too sketchy. What we can just say is that this was a fun and entertaining book that gave support to existing theories in the MBTI. And this is the problem. The MBTI is not perfect. There is much left to know. And if we go into neuroscience and use neuroscience only to verify the claims of the MBTI, but not to reinterpret and improve and expand, we won't learn anything. We'll only find the patterns we want to find. And that's the problem of the human mind. We fall into confirmation bias. It happens to the best of us. We see and imagine patterns because we want to imagine patterns. But if we want to learn, it's not just about confirming old existing patterns, but also about challenging old patterns, challenging traditional paradigms, recognizing that the MBTI is not a science. It could be. The Carl Jung's claims could be proven if we subjected it to the limitations of science, if we reinterpreted the methods and found good or better ways, academic, scientific ways of investigating it. But we don't. So far, we haven't been able to do so. At best, the MBTI can claim 50-70% accuracy, and that's putting it highly. In science, the support of the MBTI is weak. Often people prefer the Big Five, but the Big Five, I assure you, is not actually a meaningful instrument. It's a scientific instrument, sure, but it doesn't actually provide you with a lot of help on how you can grow or develop yourself or improve as a person. The Big Five just gives you a statistical, oh, this is who we are, okay, whatever. But that's often the limitation of it. So we need something new. We really, really, really need something new. I keep finding myself and thinking that what I've done so far up until this point has been more amateurish at best. The things that I've been studying in a New Jungian Academy and how I've been going about things, it's been the work of an amateur, a person who is simply a pilot trying to understand something new. And I think that's to some extent healthy. Because often when you think you're an expert, when you think you know everything, that's also when you stop learning. If you want to learn something, then you have to be critical, skeptical of yourself. You have to be open to learn. You have to be open to challenging your own claims. So sometimes I find myself thinking, maybe I should stay in this pilot state. Maybe I should be wary of seeing myself as an expert. Maybe that humility is actually important if I want to get somewhere, because I don't think I'm finished. I don't think I've proven this is a real thing. If I did, I would go to professors, academic institutes. I would sell this to become a millionaire. Okay, I don't actually care about becoming a millionaire, but I would be at another level. Dario Nardi would also be at another level than he is today. He would have done something different if he had actually proven MBTI. So what can we do to prove the MBTI? I believe that Christian Jönsson at newjungiantypology.com came the closest to an accurate scientific method of investigating personality psychology. I mean, his presentation on his website is not that entertaining, but what he did was instead of putting the MBTI above science, he put it below science and used science and existing research on differences in the mind in different networks, the task-positive network, the default mode network. And he reinterpreted MBTI and Carl Jung's claims, and he gave them new light within the modern psychological framework. I think that he deserves far more credit than Dario Nardi does, because he developed acceptable, actually good tests. Statistically significant tests that measured not traditional existing notions on the MBTI, but modern neuroscientific research. He quantified and made neuroscience measurable and usable for the aim of personal discovery and personal growth. So these are my thoughts on Dario Nardi and on his works. To sum it up, I think he should have all the credit for starting up a new field of research and getting people to realize the value of neuroscience. But he went about it wrong. His methodology was wrong. And there needs to be a better methodology, a more scientific approach, if you want to prove that personality types are real and can be measured and can be understood through the field of neuroscience. So I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you did, leave a like, share and subscribe, and as always, I hope to see you guys in the next video.